everyone, and welcome back to the Joy-Filled Universe podcast. I am your host, Lisa Ryan, and today is part 2 of the 2-part series of exploring the 10 disciplines of high performance and potential. So last week, we discussed the first 5 disciplines, which were awareness, or having the freedom to consciously create our lives rather than navigating our days, our months, and years on autopilot. And then acceptance, or moving forward with the flow of life rather than resisting what actually is. Conscious choice, which puts us in the position of making choices with intention rather than reacting unconsciously. Trusting the process. This is us moving forward with resilience and trusting that even what appears to be a setback is a setup for success. Remember that example that I gave, planting the seed and knowing that in perfect timing, we would have a beautiful flower. And lastly, authenticity, which gives us the freedom of expressing who we truly are. We stop looking for approval, we don't hide behind masks, roles, or titles, and we unapologetically show up as our genuine selves. And now today is part 2, or the second set of the 10 disciplines. And remember, these disciplines are not about being perfect. They are mindful practices that help us to become more intentional and energized when living our very best lives. So without further ado, let's kick this off with discipline number 6, which is fearlessness. Fearlessness has nothing to do with the absence of fear and everything to do with our relationship with fear. When we are fearless, we have the ability to acknowledge fear without letting it control our actions, our decisions, or sense of self. It's the practice of moving forward with courage and trusting in ourselves while we're stepping outside of our comfort zone and allowing ourselves the ability to grow versus staying static. And now, just like in the last episode, I also want to break down these disciplines from an energy perspective. So when it comes to fearlessness, when we are in a low vibe feeling state, fearlessness shows up in us through behaviors like procrastination, self-sabotage, avoiding or ignoring opportunities due to doubt and worry of failure, and just overall feeling stuck without that oomph to get out of it because we're too scared that we will screw things up or that everyone will find out about our mess ups and our mistakes. And on the other hand, when we are feeling high vibe energy, fearlessness is leaning into uncertainty with trust, and we reframe any fear that may exist as a promising and very exciting signal that expansion is happening for us, and we are in the process of evolving into a really incredible version of ourselves. And now I'm going to also pull the thread here on that because this is actually a really great tool to apply to. Reframing our fear as something that is exciting, I think that is so cool, and it is really awesome when you do it. So say we are on the brink of making a big decision and fear starts to sneak in. Well, catch it and then reframe it and say, what if this feeling of fear is telling me that I'm about to move into one of the best phases of my life thus far? And let's face it, many times we feel stuck because of the fear of change and moving out of what feels safe and comfortable. However, we aren't going to grow unless we expand and push our boundaries. So if this sounds a bit overwhelming, because change tends to do that to humans, I mean, self included, I love when people say things like, oh, I love change. I don't really think any of us totally love change. So if this sounds a bit overwhelming to you, perhaps we apply a tool I'm going to call micro bravery, which can be taking one small action outside of our comfort zone on a routine basis. By doing this, we become accustomed to the awareness that taking risks while knowing that everything always unfolds for our highest good, and then seeing those risks pay off, this gives us more and more courage to take bigger risks as we evolve and feel more comfortable. Okay, now I'll give you an example of how I applied this discipline in my very recent past. And this is starting a business. Yes, every time I thought about it, I knew I wanted to do it, but would think, oh God, this is going to be so hard. I don't know if I have the time. It's probably super time consuming. And I'm just going to say too, while all these thoughts were rushing through my head, I just felt so intimidated. And Lord knows, I also felt very discouraged. I knew I wanted my own business. I knew I wanted it to be something that raised the vibe in the whole wide world. But how was I going to do it? And what if I failed? And what if people laughed at me? And then I'm going to cue the reframing tool, right? When you apply this reframing tool, you kind of say, what if it's not hard to start a business? What if I do succeed? What if I get to make a positive impact on people and help to enrich their lives for so many years to come? That would be a dream come true for sure. So just reframing these thoughts alone already made starting a business feel so much more exciting and so much easier. And I also applied my micro bravery here because I took inspired action. I made a timeline. I reached out to people who started their own businesses and I asked questions and I took notes. And every day I did something that felt a little uncomfortable, a little risky, but it brought me closer to starting my own business. And guess what? It didn't take me years. It didn't take me months or even weeks. It took me days to accomplish being a business owner who now intentionally chooses to look through a lens of fearlessness because I absolutely love spreading joy and raising the vibe. And it makes my heart sing when I receive feedback from people, and I'm already on a successful journey that just keeps getting better. I'm so grateful I did not allow fear to be a roadblock for me, and that my Joy-Filled Universe LLC is alive and well, and October will actually be 1 full year, a 1-year anniversary, 1 year old. Thank you, universe. All right, now moving right along to discipline number 7, which is confidence. Oh, confidence. Confidence is rooted in self-assurance. When we are confident, we know our strengths and we also know and accept our weaknesses without needing to prove ourselves to others. We are open to receiving feedback and learning, and most importantly, we don't feel threatened by the success of others. Rather, we feel inspired by them. Confidence is also self-generated belief in our ability to navigate challenges, make good choices, and grow through experiences, whether they are good or bad. Because in our minds, when we are confident, we always know that we've got this. And from an energy perspective, when we find ourselves in a low vibe feeling state, we can show up as defensive, closed off, we compare ourselves to others, and we have fear of being inadequate. And from a high vibe energy, well, confidence is showing up authentically. We know our worth without needing external approval. And because we are not threatened by others, we are actually happy to see others be successful. And because of this energy that we tend to give off, we inspire trust from those around us. People feel a sense of safety and encouragement, and they can even feel uplifted just by our presence. I also do want to kind of highlight here that being confident is not being arrogant. Confidence is being secure in who we are. Arrogance is actually a sign of insecurity. And as I just messaged, confidence lifts those around us up and it energizes them. While arrogance, because there's a lot of self-doubt, it has a way of pushing others down and causes people to feel dismissed or belittled. So in short, confidence is uplifting us and those around us. And arrogance, well, it just inflates us at the expense of others. So needless to say, there is a really big difference between confidence and arrogance. All right, so an example of confidence for me, okay, I'm going to dig deep here, and I'm going to say that it was when I was interviewing for my dream job, which is now over 3 years ago. All right, I was naturally very nervous for these interviews, and I had a couple of stages of the interview process, but the stages and steps that I was most nervous for were the ones in front of a panel, and then there was another solo interview with the big boss. Now, naturally, I was nervous and I had prepared for the discussions and I knew in my heart that I was qualified. I knew I had put in the time, I was ready. And I kept repeating to myself, you got this, Lisa. And I reminded myself to just be me and trust that the universe has my back. So all of this is what I was doing to prepare. And I also coupled it with a tool that I forever keep in my bag of tricks. And it is something that I have shared with friends, family, clients, mentees, and now I'm sharing it with my Joy-Filled Universe friends as of today. And this confidence boosting tool is known as the power pose. Oh, this is something that has been brought to light by a very smart lady named Amy Cuddy. She gave an incredible TED Talk that I believe is called Your Body Language May Shape Who You Are. I think that's what it's called. Your Body Language May Shape Who You Are. And it was done, I believe it was done back in like 2012, but it is so good and still so very relevant today because it explains that our body language not only shapes how others see us, but also how we feel about ourselves. And Amy Cuddy, through her TED Talk, she explained types of power poses, which is really just like a pose that is open and expansive from a posture perspective. So think standing up like Superman with your hands on your hips, your shoulders back, your chest out, your chin up. And when we stand like this for 2 minutes or more, we can lower our stress hormones and we boost our confidence hormones and literally trick our minds into feeling more powerful and more confident. So you best believe that before my very successful interviews, I struck a pose for my 2 minutes while taking deep breaths and saying, "Thank you, universe, for my success today." And I not only had successful interviews, but all of my butterflies went away and I was able to be present and think clearly and most importantly, feel confident in how I was showing up for my dream job audition. So the next time you think that you need a little confidence booster, regardless of what you need it for, find a quiet place and hold a power pose for at least 2 minutes. It really does work. And if you're curious about it, I'm going to go ahead and leave Amy Cuddy's TED Talk in the show description of this episode, and you can check it out. All right, now let's talk about discipline number 8, which is connection. Okay, connection. This is the practice of aligning and relating yourself to you, others, and the universe. And what I mean by this is connection with yourself is about being present with our own thoughts, our own feelings and emotions, and truly knowing and accepting who we are without any judgment and all love. Connection with others is a bond that forms when we feel seen, heard, and valued for who we are. And even better, when we offer the same in return, it creates a sense of belonging and trust with the other human. And lastly is connection with the universe, which is that deeper sense of feeling and knowing that we are part of something way bigger than we can ever imagine. And that feeling in life is just so meaningful. It's supporting and it's guiding us in a direction that is always serving our highest good. And so from a lens of energy here, low vibe with ourselves, we can feel distracted, we can feel critical of ourselves or numb to our own needs. We might even just ignore our own intuition, and we do that by silencing our inner voice. Now, with others, we can feel needy, draining, or conditional. We can also look to seek validation out of fear of being alone, and we can find ourselves just struggling to trust and in turn being trusted by others. And with the universe, we can feel abandoned, unsupported, or even that life is happening to us rather than for us. And so, oh my God, I'm hearing myself say all of that, and clearly this is low vibe, and it is deeply rooted in fear and survival mode. And now, on a much brighter side, from a high vibe energy lens, connection is certainly empowering energy. And with ourselves, it shows up as feelings of alignment, in tune with our intuition, and we trust ourselves implicitly. With others, connection feels expansive and uplifting. We celebrate the wins of others. We listen intently to them, and we feel safe because we feel seen and valued by them. And they feel seen and valued and respected by us. And with the universe, well, we are in the flow. We are co-creating our best life. We're launching rockets of desire and then taking inspired action and following those breadcrumbs that the universe puts in our very successful paths. And we are also very magnetic because our in the flow energy, it brings more and more of what we are putting out to us, and life just keeps getting better and better. Now, personally, this is a place that I strive to be most days as often as I can because I adore how this makes me feel. And just as a low vibe connection is rooted in fear, we can see that the high vibe connection is light and it's rooted in abundance and love. And so examples of connection for me are super easy. Connection with myself, well, guess what? I love hanging out with me. I rarely ever have FOMO, and I used to a lot of the time. I swear I did. But through tons of focused work on learning to really love myself, FOMO isn't really a thing for me anymore. And quite frankly, I really appreciate it when I have alone time and can do whatever I want to do and just enjoy spending time, well, with me. And now let me just add here too that I do lean a little more on the extrovert side of the spectrum than the introverted side. So although I appreciate some good alone time, I also really love getting energy from being around other people. And I have to say that I'm so grateful to have really terrific connections with really super friends in my life who I truly adore. And I'm also just so grateful for them every single day. And I'm not someone that has like hundreds of friends, but I do have a number of really close friends, and connecting with them is just so important to me. And spoiler alert, I plan to do a pod on relationships at some point because I feel that they are just so very important and valuable to all of us in our lives. But for today, I will say that a great way of practicing connection with others is genuinely through something called active listening. This is a great tool that is intentional practice of giving our full presence mentally, emotionally, and physically to another person while seeking to really just understand not just their words, but also their meaning, their emotions, body language, and the unspoken messages that you're picking up from engaging with them. So through this practice, we let those who we are connecting with feel seen, heard, and appreciated. It genuinely lifts us both up. And if possible, turn the wireless devices over on the table so that you're not being distracted by them when you're catching up. It really is a treat. And you can even do this actually from a long distance perspective, although you will need your wireless devices. So for my friends who live far away, I love doing walk and talks. We both head outside and we catch up while walking in nature, and we will talk for hours. And that always just fills my heart because I feel like I'm walking right next to them while enjoying their company and connecting outside. And I want to slip in another really easy practice here. Remember that 8-minute rule? I did a pod on that a little while ago when I believe that was the pod that I barely had a voice. Yeah, that one. Well, that's a really great tool to apply when connecting. And honestly, it only takes 8 minutes to do a routine check-in with someone that you love, including yourself. Okay, now discipline number 9, which, did I say the last discipline was discipline number 9? If I did, I apologize. I'm losing count. I don't have them numbered on my notes. So, okay, this is discipline number 9 because I only have one more after it. Okay, so presence in the moment. Oh my goodness. I just talked about this with a mentee of mine this week. So presence in the moment is bringing our full awareness to the here and now, not stuck in the past, not racing into the future. It's the conscious practice of directing our attention, our energy, and awareness to what is happening right now, internally and externally, without any judgment and without any distractions. And now from an energy perspective, when we are in a place of low energy, we tend to be preoccupied. We overwhelm ourselves with multiple tasks that we attempt to do all at one time. Mentally, we often find ourselves just drifting in and out of our minds, and we just find it really difficult to focus. And we often torture ourselves with troubling thoughts from the past that can cause us to feel depressed, or we obsess about the fear-based thoughts of the future, which can bring on feelings of anxiety. And guess what? While we are chasing all of this, time, it just keeps marching past us, and we miss out on the beauty of now. And speaking of beauty, let's talk about what high vibe energy feels like when focusing on being present in the moment. So from this perspective, we are aligned with ourselves because we eliminate mental fear-based noise. And as a result, we feel calm, we feel focused and grounded. We have clear minds and we make better decisions because we aren't distracted with regrets or worries. And because we are present, we tend to notice the little things that often get overlooked. And this expands our levels of appreciation and gratitude, and we thoughtfully respond to our environment rather than just reacting impulsively. And now I mentioned that I spoke with a mentee about this just a little bit ago, and they were explaining to me a scenario where they felt so worried about all of these what if scenarios that they were endlessly crafting in their mind. And I asked them, how much of your time has been spent on today versus tomorrow? And they were like, what? And I said, yeah, how much of your time have you spent on all the really good things that are happening today, right now? Because none of those scenarios that you are explaining as future expected events are occurring right now. So if they are going to unfold, you will get the opportunity to experience them when you get there. But don't throw away the present, because right now things are pretty great. And then I went on to say, how much of these future events can you control? And they said, well, none of it. And then I said, and how much of what you explained are based on assumptions and speculation? And they said, most of it. And then I said, what would it feel like to think about those scenarios from a lens of everything working out in your favor? And they said, that'd be pretty great. And I said, then how about we practice staying there while also enjoying the now, because it's much easier to enjoy now when you are excited for tomorrow versus afraid of tomorrow. And so a super, super easy peasy tool to apply when we find ourselves drifting into the past or future with fear-based thoughts, it's just simple breath work. When we focus on our breath, it is something that is just always with us, and it acts as a constant anchor to the present moment. So focus your attention on your breath. Notice your inhale, notice the exhale, and that subtle pause in between. And when we do this, we reduce our stress, we create calm, and we create a centering energy, and we bring ourselves into the now. And speaking of the now, well, now we are at number 10, which is the last of our disciplines, and it rounds out the second episode of our 2-part series. The number 10 slot goes to 100% energetic engagement. Oh, 100% energetic engagement. That is showing up fully, body, mind, and spirit, and being fully immersed, focused, and committed to what we are doing or who we are doing it with. We bring our whole self into the moment, and every action we take is intentional, it's impactful, and it's aligned to our highest purpose. And as we have examined for all of the disciplines so far, from an energetic perspective, when we are low vibe, this energy is intense, but it's also misaligned. So we can tend to put a lot of energy into complaining or arguing. Our energy can feel desperate or just fear-based, and it leads us to chasing results obsessively and trying to prove our worth. And lastly, we risk burnout because our energy, it's scattered and it's depleting. And then there's the high vibe. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Yes, 100% energetic engagement. What a vibe. Let's just say when we find ourselves here, we have dedicated ourselves with full attention. Our hearts and our souls are engaged to what really matters to us. We are open and creating a positive impact, and we feel energized and encouraged, and we inspire everyone that's around us because we have channeled our energy into something so truly important to us, because we are in the flow and we're connected to our soul's passion, and we are unstoppable in all the best ways. And now a really great example of my 100% energetic engagement is the Joy-Filled Universe podcast. This pod, you guys, has become my second job. It really has. And I do love it, albeit it's a bit time consuming, but I do love it. I love thinking about it and what we're going to discuss. I love researching and rereading portions of just old books to refresh my mind. I also love reading new books that I can apply and stay current. I love writing the outline and recording, and I most especially love when I check the stats and see the number of listeners growing week after week. Oh my gosh, it just makes me so happy. So I'm just going to say 100% engagement when it comes to Joy-Filled Universe. Yes, I am in. I am focused and I am in the flow every week, and I love it, and I'm so grateful for it, and I dream every single day about all the ways this experience will continue to grow. And so a tool that we can apply here for this discipline can be a simple energy check. Yeah, rate your energy over the course of a day when you're engaged in activity that requires your focus. So when engaged, what you can do is just pause for a bit and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low vibe, 10 being high vibe, how is my energy right now? And if you are anything less than a 5, then just take a step back for a minute. Maybe go for a walk, maybe call a friend and have a good laugh, go hug your fur baby, do something that raises your vibe and refreshes your energy to get back to a good feeling state. And if you are finding it difficult to get out of a rut, then maybe assess the activity that you are working on, because it may be something that you're not aligned to at this current time. And that awareness, I'm going to tell you, is so helpful when deciding what our next steps are going to be, especially when we're being very aware of how we spend our time. And speaking of being aware, well, that was the first of the disciplines, and we have now just come full circle. Yes, people, we did it. We did it together. We talked through all 10 disciplines. So from the top, awareness, the freedom to consciously create our lives versus living on autopilot. Acceptance, we stop fighting life and we align to its flow. Conscious choice puts us in the driver's seat and we drive in the direction of our dreams. Trust in the process. Well, we keep moving forward knowing that everything is working out for us. Authenticity, we stop living for approval and we give ourselves the freedom to live our truth. And from this week, we learned about fearlessness, which is when we stop viewing fear as the enemy and we appreciate it as our ally. It no longer paralyzes us, rather it serves as a signal that we are growing and transforming and moving beyond where we have been, and we enter into the feeling state of expansion. Confidence, well, that means that we no longer question our place at the table. We trust ourselves and anchor in self-belief while embodying who we truly are every day, becoming a better and better version of ourselves. And then connection, well, that means that we see us, others, and the universe as having meaningful alignment to ourselves. Connections are less about needing something and more about giving and receiving energy in balance. And then there was number 9, which is presence in the moment, which is us giving our full attention to the now. We are no longer scattered or distracted. Rather, we embrace our present, which allows for life to feel richer and more meaningful because we are living with intention while knowing that we are right where we are supposed to be. And then lastly, well, 100% energetic engagement, which means that we live our lives as the energy source instead of the energy drain. We do what excites us, what uplifts us, as well as those around us, because it becomes much less about effort and much more about alignment. And there we have it. There we have it. Disciplines 1 through 10, along with how they show up from a high and low vibe energy state, plus some really easy tools that we can apply when living into these disciplines. And remember, these are not quick fixes. They are daily choices. And with practice, they shift from being something that we work on into simply being who we are. And a quote I really love from Abraham Lincoln, I believe he was our 16th president, if my history serves me correct. So president number 16, Abe Lincoln, he said, "Discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most," which is really a great way of saying that discipline is an intentional choice that aligns our actions with our highest goals rather than short-term impulses. And on that note from Honest Abe, I hope that this 2-part episode series was helpful to you and something that you can apply to your world. And if it is, and if it was, please do me a solid and rate, follow, share with a friend, and even write a review. All of this really truly helps me out because it gets the pod recognized more in searches, and it also just helps to elevate its visibility. So thank you so much for your support. I am super grateful. And that's a wrap for this week. I am your host, Lisa Ryan. This is the Joy-Filled Universe podcast, where we explore all the tools and tricks that are going to make your universe even more joyful than it already is. And I will look forward to talking to you next week. Bye.